Hi guys, it's me again, Jan Mark Mir, and welcome for today's another video. Today, I am going to interpret those rights written in the Bill of Rights. But first, what is the Bill of Rights? Bill of Rights is a document in which it has 22 sections that serve to become the limit of the government power, and also, it is a document in which it states the right of every citizen in the Philippines. Here is the fact. Did you know that because of Bill of Rights, we are protected at any violation from the government and as well as the individual? And that is why we need to know what is Article 3 Bill of Rights states about. Let's start at Section 1. Section 1. Here in this section mention about the three rights. First is the right to life. This means that nobody, including the government, can enter anyone's life or claim anyone's life. Second is the right to liberty, or the right to express freedom and feel free. Third is the right to property. This means that you have the right to own property without facing any threat. Those are the three rights that cannot be taken to every individual without due process of law. Also, here in this section, mention about the equal protection of the law. This means that the government should act fairly to the people. Let's move on to Section 2. Section 2 states about the right of the people to be safe against unreasonable searches and seizures. Take note, in this section that search and seizures will not be valid if there is no issue of warrant of arrest and search warrant issued by the court. And also, it states here in this section about no search warrant and warrant of arrest shall be issued without sufficient probable cause examined by the judge. However, there is an exemption. When we talk about the warrantless case, it happens if the person is caught in the act or in flagrante delicto, hot pursuit arrest, and arrest of the escapee. Now let's move on to Section 3. Section 3 states about the right to privacy. It means that the government and every individual should always respect the privacy of a person, not unless if there is a lawful order of the court. Moving on to Section 4. Section 4 states about the freedom of speech and the freedom of expression and of the press. It means that anyone can have the freedom to express their speech and talk as long as they are not violating the other person's freedom. Let's move on to Section 5. Section 5 states about the right of the freedom of religion. It means that anyone has the freedom to worship and believe in any religion without interference of the government and any individual, as long as it does not exceed the prohibition of the law. And now let's move on to Section 6. Section 6 states there about the liberty of abode and the liberty to travel. Liberty of abode is the right of every person to choose where to live without interference of the government. Right to travel is the right of every person to travel as long as the person is not restrained for the reason of there is an ongoing case of criminal liability, and also if it is concerning to public safety and public health. Moving on to Section 7. Section 7 states there about the right to information. It talks about the transparency of the government to inform every citizen about informable records, transaction, and research. However, it has limitation in terms of confidential records and private transaction. Moving on to Section 8. Section 8 states there about the right to form an organization. It means that employed and unemployed persons shall have the right to enter and form an organization as long as it follows the regulation of the law. Moving on to Section 9. Section 9 states there about the right of just compensation. It means that a private owner shall be paid accordingly by using his private property for eminent domain or public use. Moving on to Section 10. Section 10 states there about the obligation of contracts. It means that the government cannot make a law regulating or stopping the contracts as long as the contracts or promise is ensured to be done. Moving on to Section 11. Section 11 states there about the right to access the court and quasi-judicial bodies. It means that every person has the right to have assistance pertaining to legal advice that would help him on his case. Moving on to Section 12. Section 12 states there about the right of having free counsel and to be safe if the person is under the custody. It means that the person is provided a free legal counsel that would help him answer the reason of arrest and become safe to any violence that force him to talk about unnecessary information that would destroy himself into custody. Moving on to Section 13. Section 13 states there about the right of a person to bail for a criminal case as long as it is not punishable by reclusion perpetua, and also it states there about the excessive bail or beyond the limits fines. It means that a person shall be released to custody before conviction as long as it gives sureties, and also the person has the rights to reject excessive fines. Moving on to Section 14. Section 14 states there about the right of a person to not be illegally detained. It means that no person shall be held into detention or prison without going to legal process. Moving on to Section 15. Section 15 states there about the right to have the privilege of the right of habeas corpus. It means if the case is not suspended to writ of habeas corpus, a person shall have the right to avail this privilege. Moving on to Section 16. Section 16 states there about the right of speedy disposition of their case before all judicial and quasi-judicial and administrative bodies. It means that every person has the right to speed their cases to prevent over-sentence into detention. Moving on to Section 17. Section 17 states there about the right of the person to not be compelled as witness against himself. It means that a person should have the right to remain silent to help himself, or the person shall have the right to reject as becoming a witness of himself. Moving on to Section 18. Section 18 states there about the right of the person to have his own political beliefs. It means that a person shall not be interfered with for his/her political beliefs. Moving on to Section 19. Section 19 states there about the right of a person to not be imposed into excessive fines and death penalty, not unless it is imposed by the law. And also it states here in this section that death penalty would be reduced into reclusion perpetua as stated to its right. Moving on to Section 20. Section 20 states there about the right of the person to not be put in prison by not paying tax. It means that a person shall not be in prison if he or she does not pay for any payable as long as it is not violating the law. Moving on to Section 21. Section 21 states there about the right of jeopardy punishment. It means that a person shall not be held into twice jeopardy unless it is indifferent liability of crime. Moving on to the last section. Section 22 states there about the ex facto law. It means that no law shall be passed after doing those actions, or no person shall be detained by ex facto law. And that was all the rights stated in the Bill of Rights. Hope you guys learn about it. Good day and thank you for watching.